I'd lived in my quiet, HOA-run neighborhood for 6 uneventful years. The kind of suburb where the biggest excitement was a new seasonal wreath on someone's door or the occasional lost cat flyer posted near the mailboxes. Then came the envelope. It looked more like a federal summons than neighborhood correspondence. Thick, cream stock paper, a bright red HOA seal in the top corner, and my name typed out in pristine serif font. Inside was a single page that practically reeked of performative authority. This notice is to inform you of a formal noise violation issued on the evening of April 8th at 8:47 p.m. Multiple neighbors reported excessive sound disturbances stemming from your property. That alone made me pause. Because on April 8th, at precisely 8:47 p.m., I was on a Zoom call in my den, wearing noise-canceling headphones. Alone, talking to no one. Even my cat hadn't meowed. Worse yet, the document wasn't signed. No board member's name, no authentication stamp, just a photocopied HOA logo and the phrase, "Final Warning," in bold italics. The words multiple neighbors did a lot of heavy lifting for something built on zero evidence. I walked outside to inspect the street, half expecting a nosy neighbor lurking behind a hydrangea bush. The cul-de-sac was as serene as ever. You could hear the sprinklers from 3 houses away. Not a soul in sight. That's when I saw her. Standing at the edge of her immaculate lawn, arms crossed, yoga pants tight, and lips pursed tighter than a vacuum-sealed pickle jar. Not her real name, of course, but everyone called her Brenda. The kind of woman who once reported someone for installing a bird feeder without HOA pre-approval. Brenda lived for bylaws. She gave me a wave that looked more like a warning. I nodded back. The disdain in her gaze was unmistakable, the kind that suggested I should already know what I'd done wrong. Brenda had a special talent for projecting disappointment without saying a word. The next day, another envelope. This one crammed violently into my mailbox, bending the metal flap. Inside, a color-printed page from the HOA bylaws with section 4.27.3 highlighted in neon yellow. Prolonged or amplified noise disturbances past 8 p.m. are prohibited and subject to fines. At the top, in loopy blue handwriting that screamed middle school serial killer, was, "Consider this your official reminder," smiley face. I knew then, Brenda wasn't just accusing me. She had self-appointed herself as enforcer. More troubling, the envelope had no postmark, no barcode, no stamp. It hadn't been mailed. That might not mean much to most people, but I grew up with an uncle who's now the Postmaster General. I know a fake delivery when I see one. Brenda, HOA's unappointed deputy, had forged a mail delivery. She had no idea she was targeting someone who knew the USPS better than she knew Pottery Barn's spring catalog. And that's when my plan began to form. I installed a camera on my front porch disguised inside a decorative bird feeder. Then I staged bait, pretending to power wash my driveway while the hose was unplugged. No sound. 2 hours later, another envelope. This one included a fine. $75 payable to the HOA via Venmo. Venmo. No official HOA correspondence uses Venmo. The QR code linked to an account named Brenda Bell 7. This wasn't just fabricated, it was fraud. I printed screenshots, recorded myself opening the fake fine, and labeled the folder, Brenda's Greatest Hits. I didn't retaliate yet. Instead, I smiled wider, waved more cheerfully. I offered cuttings from my hydrangeas. Brenda was suspicious, but she couldn't resist feeling victorious. What she didn't know was I'd already sent one of her forged envelopes to my uncle, who passed it along for a forensic mail fraud investigation. At the next neighborhood meeting, Brenda proposed I be placed on a probationary compliance watch list. She passed around a clipboard for signatures, but 6 were already filled in, all in handwriting suspiciously similar to her cookie sale labels. I stood and calmly asked, "How does the HOA handle mail-based violations that bypass official postal channels?" Silence. I added, "Because tampering with mail, even fake mail, is a federal offense." Title 18, Section 1708. Brenda's clipboard dropped an inch. The smug drained from her face. But she didn't back down. 2 days later, another notice. This time, accusing me of operating a non-compliant sound-producing device. Attached, a blurry driveway photo showing me holding a pressure washer. It wasn't even plugged in. Her signature now appeared at the bottom. Brenda Claiborne, HOA Vice Chair, Acting President. There was no elected president. The last one moved to Florida. Brenda had just declared herself queen of the cul-de-sac. So I assembled a packet. Screenshots, fake finds, the Venmo handle, a timeline, even a photo of her placing the envelope in my mailbox. I dropped one off at every board member's doorstep with a plate of brownies. Brenda preferred lemon bars. Less than 24 hours later, I got a text from Marcus, the HOA treasurer. Hey, this is wild. We didn't approve any of these. Let's talk. Turns out, Brenda had gone rogue. Her digital footprint was a disaster. The Venmo account was public. Transactions labeled noise fine, gnome infraction, pet violation. Hundreds, possibly thousands, had been siphoned from neighbors under the guise of HOA policy. We held an emergency meeting. Brenda showed up in an HOA polo, binder in hand labeled Neighborhood Decorum Enforcement Log. She took the head seat. No one asked her to. Marcus cleared his throat. Brenda, we have concerns. If this is about the lawn flamingos, I've already cited them, she snapped. It's about financial fraud, he replied. And the title you've given yourself. She laughed. Well, someone has to keep order. Not by pretending to be president, another member added. I'm protecting our values, she said, chest puffed. You're breaking the law, I said, placing a copy of Title 18, Section 1343, wire fraud, on the table. She froze. Marcus dropped a USB drive onto the table. Multiple homes. Unauthorized notices. No board approval. Brenda's jaw slackened like an app crashing mid-load. She accused us of harassment. Called it a witch hunt. No, Mara, a retired attorney, said from the back. This is accountability. Brenda was suspended. Clipboard revoked. Her self-assigned title scrubbed from the HOA website. Residents whispered like it was a suburban Game of Thrones episode. But she wasn't done. She vanished for 3 days. Then came the letters. Properly mailed this time. From a new organization, Neighborhood Aesthetic Alliance. Complete with logo, a dove, and garden shears. She declared the HOA defunct and invited everyone to a community correctional circle. Coffee and gluten-free pastries included. Most laughed, but I investigated. Sure enough, Brenda had formed an LLC. Registered months ago. She'd planned this before the noise complaint. A scam disguised as a civic reboot. For $49.99 per month, residents could avoid violations by hiring her. Marcus and I filed a complaint with the state attorney general. The postal inspector already had a file. Then came the final twist. Mara, the mailbox decor enthusiast Brenda once fined, had received a violation from Brenda's LLC. She'd ignored a cease and desist, and even used a second LLC with a P.O. box to send follow-ups. She wasn't just petty. She was organized fraud petty. The evidence became overwhelming. The board voted to disassociate. Days later, law enforcement arrived. Her house was raided. Laptop, printer, envelopes, all seized. Brenda, was escorted out in broad daylight. One officer muttered, I've seen cults run more legitimate operations. And just when you thought it was over, investigators uncovered an old file box labeled Archives, Private. Inside, decade-old HOA receipts, some real, some fake, and invoices to a company no one had heard of. True Vista Residential Solutions. An old shell company, owned by Brenda. From 2014 to 2016, she had billed the HOA nearly $8,000 for made-up consultations. Landscaping audits. Gnome repositioning. Embezzlement with flair. The final nail? Blank HOA checks signed by a former president, now deceased. Brenda had kept them, likely for future emergencies. The AG's office filed criminal charges, mail fraud, wire fraud, embezzlement. Brenda pled out. 2 years probation, restitution, and a lifetime ban from any HOA board. The neighborhood installed a bronze bench at the dog park, in memory of community peace. May future leaders lead with grace, not clipboards. We called it the Brenda Hemsworth Memorial Bark Park. She saw it once, from her car, driving by, slowly, alone. And the final poetic detail? She was arrested on National Mail Carrier Appreciation Day by a postal inspector with a Tom Hanks beard. Some endings write themselves. And me? I watered my hydrangeas, patted Muffin, now happily adopted by Mara, and slept soundly under the protection of the U.S. Postal Service. Because in this cul-de-sac, mail matters.